difficult, a bit bumpy.
Yes, what we need is there's a little button. It's called camera stabilization, and what we need is for that to be pressed right now, Brian.
Or maybe for the camera, just to pop back a little bit, just maybe alongside the road. The road is wide enough for that to happen. But definitely 3 riders. Another couple trying to come across. So Trek, Segafredo, definitely there.
What I love about you, Brian, is the passion you bring to commentary.
Here we go. He's listening.
At last, here we go. 9.7 kilometres. And here we are. Well, they want to put on a show. I'm not quite sure how much of a show some of you appreciate it. I wouldn't mind knowing, actually, your thoughts. It's we're on Twitter. It's at Carlton Kirby, CARLTONKIRBY, and also at Bryce Smithy, BRISMITHY.
And it's a piece of Steps and Cyclists, cam.com.
It is. Count the ants from this kind of height.
There they are.
Ian from Gnarly Rebel is speaking from the heart. He says, I've seen some stupid stuff in my life, but this takes the digestive. As this guy, yes, he goes on to be slightly dismissive of Richard. He has won a few things, yeah. Do the bystanders actually know who he is? They certainly do. He's quite a hero in this part of the world. Anyways, full lap of 16 kilometres was a bit much. I'll give you that, Ian. Well, A and B was hoping that Jersey would actually speed up, catch the
we're back,
and then sit until the final, get it by default. On a circuit race, you do. I've seen certain events, Brian, where you get gated if you are lapped, of course, because it's not track cycling after all.
Yeah, that just happened, but it's not in this size of circuit, so we get Trek Segafredo here, just joining them at the back, Israel Premier Tech. Have you picked out any numbers yet, Carlton?
Not yet. It'll happen. Yeah. Principal teams actually have posted up here, forcing others to chase. That's the idea, so that they will indeed sap their legs before they actually get home today. There you are. So, number 191 is Loreno Rosas. He's here. We have number 26 for you. 2 and 6. 26 is Matthias Vacek. Now, he could make a steal. He's that kind of...
No, more climbing.
We have, I think they've got Jens I beg your pardon. They've missed out number 26 here.
Yeah, Vacek is definitely there. Only 4 riders, so number 2, 3, 6, just forget about that one.
Yes. I will. I was slightly worried about myself there, to be honest. Number 116 is Carlos Salguero. And to be fair, AP Hotels and Resorts Tavira, great place. Do go to Tavira. Take the little ferry from the harbour side and go to the Praia, and then just follow signs for pesca mista and mixed fish, and help yourself to a fantastic meal. Very reasonable as well. Has to be for me to enjoy it, to be honest. Otherwise, I'll issue the Yorkshire war cry of how much. Anyway, Jens Reinders is here. This is a quality quartet, Brian. It's proper racers with a kick on them as well. But it's whether they can get any kind of distance.
Yeah, it's good to see that you know, two of the kind of top teams are riding. You know, one World Tour team there with Trek Segafredo, second division team, Pro Tour with Israel. He's just getting his breath back a little bit because that was a kind of hard effort. They do have 30 seconds, so 4 riders. I don't think it's quite big enough, this group, to go all the way to the finish, but you know, they're going to give it a good go. But the rider at the back there for Israel, just he's come across this group, he's not riding. You just see that little wave there, but I just think he's really kind of suffering with making the effort to go across to them.
.26 seconds is the gap they have. Telling you what you can already see. A little bit of chit-chat going on. This is Rojas just saying, "Come on, let's all play the game here." This was the trio that went off, and just one man managed to make the bridge. The effort did hamper him. Was it Gerardo from Panama who was trying to get there as well, Brian?
I didn't see him there, to be honest with you. But that was a huge effort there from Israel Premier Tech rider, and he's still not recovered yet. So a few waves going out now. Whether he's been told not to ride, but I think it's just a case of, you know, a big effort there to get across. He's just trying to get his breath back and potentially kind of help out a little bit. Looked like the commissary of the Watopia was telling off the cameraman a little bit there.
I think so. The departure of Max was absolutely lovely, says Anne. Thanks, Anne. You speak of wanting more Argentines to love cycling, and he's the kind of hero that encourages that. You're absolutely right. A local hero. Well, you can see by the amount of people that turned out to say farewell to him. Unparalleled in the European peloton. She says she muted the commentary and enjoyed it.
I did say.
We weren't being hard on him, man. Nicholas Blanco.
4-minute breakaway. 21
I just
seconds.
don't understand why the Israel Premier Tech rider there of Reinders. I thought initially he was just getting his breath back a little bit.
16 kilometer.
Not riding. I can understand why he's not riding, because he's got a potential winner in his solo just behind, but why make the effort to go across in the first place?
20 seconds is all they've got, and there's a few other hopefuls that want to join the fun now. I think they will, likewise, Brian, have made a calculation, to steal a phrase from a certain Mr. Kenny, that today it's not overly wearing as far as the wind is concerned. They are now familiar with the circuit, and there's no kind of hiding place here apart from pure effort, and sometimes it's actually worth engaging in that just to dig in and have a go. Welcome back. The temptation that's being offered up by those who have been brave enough to have a dig today, as if to say, look, this is what's possible, and a few others are appreciating this and thinking, well, you know what, let's have a go. They're being neutralised by the peloton, however, who would quite like, so many sprinters teams here, to have the fun themselves. If Aberasturi is going to have a chance today, putting Vacek up the road means that his team don't have to work, so Aberasturi can save his legs, and I guess it's the sort of scenario where he might come good. Those of you hoping that Peter Sagan would come good today, I'm not quite sure that that's going to happen. Although his positioning skills are legendary, he seems to have just lost that top-end power, although he's had some good results here at this race. We had a very touching tribute to Peter Sagan, as all the riders were giving their thoughts about him. The nicest came from Ellie Viviani. Sagan, of course, started at Liquigas and speaks very, very good Italian. He got to grips with English a little bit later in his career as a young man. Slovakian and Italian, also pretty handy at Russian, I have to tell you. But yeah, he learned Italian very early, and he and Eli Viviani and all Italian riders always like to shoot the breeze, have some conversation with Peter Sagan. And Viviani saying how much he's going to miss him, and the fact that he kind of suspected it was coming, so he's clearly sort of on the inside of that information. But said it still came as very much a shock to him when he announced, and he said you always wonder how you're going to cope emotionally when somebody delivers news that you're kind of half expecting. And Viviani saying he was surprised himself that it affected him so much. Clearly very sad to see Peter Sagan go, as I'm sure many of you will be, but he's had a difficult time of late, and he's always been somebody who I think races for love, simple as that. He adores what he does, and equally I think when you have that degree of affection, when it starts to become a drag for whatever reason, I think he's got every right to say, you know what, I think I'm going to try something else. He's going to go for mountain biking at Paris 24, the Olympics, but his road career will end at the end of this year. A little bit of argument about work rate going on here, Brian, and it's Carlos Salguero of AP Hotels Resorts Tavira, who is doing most of the haranguing, but he's still offering up a favour, not insisting that Jens Reinders comes through. No surprise.
Yeah, Reinders got across. I thought it was catching his breath. He isn't. He's been told he got there, and I think he's been told not to ride, not to ride with his breakaway. He's got another job to do. But the question is, why did he put himself in that position anyway? You know, surely in the team meeting, you know what you have to do. And, you know, he's made a huge effort to go across there, and he's not helping. So I can only think that they don't want this to go. They don't want him to contribute, which is a strange decision. But what we're coming up to is the first sprint of the day, 3, 2 and 1 points. It's not going to matter to anybody here, because the best placed is Vacek at 4 minutes and 24 seconds. But it doesn't help maybe some of the other riders back in the peloton, because they're kind of chasing some of the bonus seconds to move up in the relative competitions.
Half a minute they've got with 80.4 kilometres from home. So you are seeing the approach here. It's not the widest boulevard to take the finale, and it's slightly indented as well. As you can see, there are the Hornet sections now. This is 200 metres to go. So it's a little bit of a pinch. No intermediate sprint points up for grabs this time, I'm actually wondering if he got the memo, to be honest. But 80 oh, beg your pardon. He did get the memo, and there is. I've lost count, Brian. So 2 laps completed. There we are. We'll have, with 2 laps to go, we'll get another intermediate sprint. There are preems up for grabs here, Brian. It does carry some money in for the smaller teams. That's worth having.
Yeah, I just don't understand what Reinders is doing here. He's sitting on the breakaway. He's taking the points, he's sprinting away. I don't understand. I'm looking at that competition, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Him taking those seconds. He's sitting at 29 minutes and 45 seconds. I don't think he's got any points in that competition. It just upsets the riders in front.
That's halfway through. I'm almost halfway through.
"26 seconds. Feed anybody? Anybody interested? Nope. They're still not tuckered out enough. Might be a few takers, but so we can read into the chase, Brian. At the moment, we've got 3 up the roads by the looks of things now. Maybe the camera fooled us. Let's see. And here's your moment.
The only thing I can suggest here is, when I said earlier on, there's 2 competitions that can change hands. One of them being the best Argentinian rider, 3 seconds between them. The other one was Quinn Simmons, was 5 seconds behind Riccatello of Israel Premier Tech. But they were going to split a couple of seconds anyway, so why sprint? So by taking the 3, 2 and 1 seconds, it means that Quinn Simmons on the bonuses can't take that jersey off. So it's a case of Israel Premier Tech making sure that you know, they want to keep a hold of that yellow jersey, the best young rider.
Well, they've got him anyway. That's part of it. I don't know, maybe it's just an instinctive thing. Sometimes you're given directives at the breakfast table, and even if scenarios change, no radios in this race, Brian. He was maybe just thinking, well, I better get up there. He got a job to do. "30 seconds. Holding station just for now." What's your view of the race, Brian? We've had a lot of coverage. We've also had some picture issues throughout, but every finish has actually been worthy of this race. I think it's been good.
The pictures aside, yesterday's sprint was one of the best I've seen in a long while. Loved it. But as Fabio Jakobsen said right from the start, this is a very sprint-friendly race. You can only do so much with the terrain round about. I know we see some hills, but a lot of the roads don't go over these hills. They go round them, and so we have a lot of flat. That could all have changed if the wind was blowing in the right direction. Okay, I don't mind a circuit race like this at the finish. It puts on a good show, and by the looks of the crowds, you know, they've come here to be entertained, and they've come out in considerable numbers, which is great to see. I think we need maybe more of, you know, the stage that the Gaviria won. Maybe a couple of stages like that. Maybe kind of mix it up a little bit and not too kind of sprinter friendly. Okay, we had the one day general classification. I would probably like to see 2 days. If it's a time trial, so be it. But I said the other day, Carlton, that you put a time trial in it, and where's Remco Gannon would probably have maybe clinched it. Maybe Evenepoel would have won this race. It just helps the kind of stronger time trialists. You know, we probably would have had another winner, because we all know that Miguel Angel Lopez is not strong in a time trial, and neither are any of the climbers. So I think for the South Americans, not having a time trial would help them, and that's clear. But
You can
I'd like to see more of a sporting course.
You could have a climbing time trial, Brian.
Where?
Well, we've had plenty of hills along the way. I mean, we've had quite a few Category 1s. Some of them have been quite draggy along ridges. Patrick Rojas and Salguero, by the way, that's the intermediate sprint. Yeah, I kind of think that they could have had let's say a 16, 18 kilometre time trial along one of the sort of draggy ridges that we've got. They've got some spectacular scenery here as well out in the desert. I think that would have done it. I don't think that would have evened it up a little bit, Brian. The pure time trialists would have had everything their own way, and some of the punchers might well have opened the book as well.
Just watching Vacek there trying to get the crowds up. We know that Reinders has kind of dropped back after that sprint now, so he wasn't contributing, just taking those seconds away and moving back. Yeah, we could have had up the Alto Colorado, we could have had a time trial up there, but look how well both Evenepoel and Ghana went in that. A time trial would have maybe favoured them a little bit more, that maybe, but there wouldn't have been much between it. I just think that, you know, there's room for a little bit of movement in the route of the race, potentially less sprint friendly, maybe have kind of 3 sprints, a couple of sporting days, and a big GC day. But then again, that's only what I would like to see.
And the race has now got a minute. We're going to hear from Sandio, of Ineos Grenadiers, Chevy Sandio, about Egan Bernal's crash. Now, I'm hoping, because I haven't had a preview of this, that the news about Egan Bernal is okay, because he crashed on the opening day, and of course he then tried to ride on and ride through it, simple as that, but it didn't quite work out for him, I'm afraid. And he did start the Alto Colorado stage, but withdrew after starting the day. So fingers crossed that Iggy Bernal is okay, because he's a fantastic rider, coming back from adversity, as you know. Nasty injury. And the last thing you need when you're on that road, Brian, is to be hobbled yet again, even in a minor way.
Yeah, I'm good to hear that from Zandio about the situation that we are in.
Yes, indeed. We'll find out the details. But you don't want to be knocked off your course for recovery, Brian, and that can quite easily happen, can't it?
Yeah, of course. I've not kind of read too much of the details. I only know that he's kind of hurt his knee a little bit, but we'll get the confirmation of that coming up now.
So, Xavi is going to have a word with us right now about Bernal. So, what happened to Bernal? Well, the first day he had a crash, hit his knee. Thankfully, it's not too serious. During the Queen stage, he started to feel some discomfort though, and he basically just felt that at the beginning of the stage, it was basically for precaution that we would withdraw from the race. So, to lessen the impact that we may have had. So, at which kilometre did he retire? He took the start, and he only did sort of 7 or 8 kilometres. He came to the car and told us that he was in pain. He wanted to continue because he's a real fighter, but we decided that actually if he was in pain, best to stop. So how was he this morning was the question. Yeah, it's fine, very optimistic, looking forward to just coming back, getting out fighting it again. It was a decision then, perhaps also thinking of national championship. Well, it's important for him. We'll see how he is this week, and if he can race, we'll remain optimistic. The Southern Hemisphere nations, Brian, they have their national championships now, essentially. So same with Down Under. They have them early. You get your champions, and Bernal is clearly minded to focus on that, which is a good thing.
Yeah, of course. Everybody would like to see him win this race. We saw Ricchesi doing this in the first lap. Now we're seeing Vacek and everybody in the breakaway just spurring on the applause at the side. But yeah, when you get pain in the knee, it was a really fast start yesterday. You get pain in the knee, which is a worry. We never really got too much from Zandio's answers there. We just know that he's got pain in the knee. How severe is that? For him to stop this race? Is it a case of precaution and recover? Because if you've got that much of a pain in the knee and you have to stop a race, it's not going to go away in a week.
No.
So if he wants to win the national championships, which we're proud to see, he's right at the Tour de France. We want to see all the kind of national champs jerseys right up at the front. But it's that sort of a knee injury. What would the organisers think if they've got a big star like that and thinking of the national champ? I know national championships are really important. I know that myself. But I just think that we never really get too much there from Zandio. How severe was that knee knock? And I don't think we will.
Of course, in Scotland, when you say you've got knee problems, it actually means you've got no problems. I've got knee problems. Well done.
So when you think something's good in Scotland, you say it's no bad. So instead of saying, "Oh, that was a good performance today," it was no bad.
And when you get absolutely ecstatic, as you must have done on your second national title there, Brian, what was your dad's reaction?
You're going to win next year? Okay.
What about the trio? The hat-trick. Oh dear. Well, Brian was indeed a double national champion. Not something anyone can take away from him. He's got his stripes, as we can't. Well, I thought we were going to get a wind walking exhibition there. Didn't quite happen for us. This, though, is looking quite handy. Just sitting on the back here, Matty Vanchek. I don't think he's done a turn for a while. Doing a lot of cheerleading. Got a minute and 8 minute 9 on the pack. They're not hanging around, Brian. This is going very quickly. Very little wind, good rolling surface. They're all being spurred on by the crowd. They're not hanging around, are they?
They're not. Medellin are just doing what they're doing, just right at the front, look after Miguel Angel Lopez, make sure he gets to the finishing line. They win this race, which is huge for them. But what I will say is, I tell you what, this week I've learned that the Chilean team like to ride on the fronts. I don't know why sometimes, but they like to ride on the fronts, the boys in red there.
They do. They've got Hector Esquiel Quintana on board. Of course, the more famous Quintana is also a man who has retired. We're getting quite a changing of the guard going on at the moment, Brian.
Has he retired?
Yeah, I believe so.
I thought he was saying he's not retired.
I better double check. Maybe I'm just tired. But we should wait and see. No, I thought he was, but anyway, I'll, now that you've said that, I'm now worried. Somebody's going to. In fact, I'm going to rely on you Twitter folks as well, and we'll keep an eye on this. To tell me. 68.4 kilometres from home, minute and 13. Yeah, they're doing a job. I've actually enjoyed as well watching Team Medellin, I must say, for Miguel Angel Lopez.
Yeah, he took it on, didn't he? It's not often you see that, the whole team, and before the Colorado climb, they came up to the front and put the pressure on. It's it wasn't ballsy to do that. And, they got the just reward in the end. It's often sometimes when a team comes up the front, does all the work, and they end up with nothing. So yeah, hats off to them. But I think Miguel Angel Lopez was always going to be one of the favourites. It's whether their team were strong enough to deliver, and they were. Okay, he delivered the hardest parts, attacking twice and moving out to solo to victory. But it's been good. You can also see that Rangel of Movistar has come up towards the front also, by the look of things, Lipovitz and Peter Seri. So the three teams that we're expecting to get up there in the sprint at the end, Movistar, Bora Hansgrohe and Sudal Quickstep, and I say that just might go over to the side and move further back down the peloton. So they're starting to get ready to potentially control things at the front if this gap starts to go up any.
Oh, well, we've just been pondering the on-off. Is Nairo Quintana retiring or not? Apparently not. He did. I think there was a massive rumour mill, which I was clearly on board with myself, or at least keeping on top of it. And then on Wednesday, so 5 days ago, or 4 days ago, he said, "I'm actually not retiring." So there we are. Just like to put to bed that rumour. Still loves cycling. Wants to be there for years to come. Peter Sagan is retiring. Max Richesi has done a lap of honour here. He's retiring. But it does feel that we've got quite a few veteran performers that have enthralled us over the years that are now in the autumn of their career, and some of those big names that we've enjoyed following are indeed deciding that it's not going to be for them anymore. Each year we get retirees. We also get some surprises, Brian. Some riders go probably earlier than we would have hoped.
Yeah, sometimes you don't get that opportunity, depending on where you're at and what results you've got. But last year I think we had quite a few people retiring, and the year before. It's going to happen pretty much every year. But I think the surprise so far seems to be Peter Sagan. He's not retiring from cycling, so he'll still be in cycling. It's just from road cycling, and he'll leave a big hole. Not only is he one of the best, well, has been one of the best in the last decade, but he's a character in our sport, and we are a flamboyant sport that we produce, characters enough, and he was definitely one of them. And you just love the way that the swashbuckling style that he had, and I think Viviani was you know, when they were at Liquigas together, you know, how he burst onto the scene. And it's, you know, I've been in a car park during the Tour de France when he's been there. When I was with MTN Quebec, we were sharing a hotel with Tinkoff, and he was there. It's just, you can see how he lights up a whole car park of people. And Tinkoff was there, and of course Sean Yates was one of the spokespersons, so I know Sean, and he got to talk to them. And of course, all of Tinkoff was coming up and said, "Would you like a glass of wine?" "Oh, we're in France, aren't we? So I'll have a glass." And Sean said to me afterwards, "It's only €1,000 a bottle." And he was just dishing it out, and I was like, "Oh yes, okay." And spoke a bit with Peter, and you know, like, if you see him away from cycling, he's just chilled out. He's, you know, he's as cool as ever. He's just a very relaxed person, but in the height of battle, he just, you know, wants to win and wants to win now in mountain biking after this year. But I think he'll be there and throwing his hands up in the air yet another time. He'll use his experience, of course, but let's see what he can do next year. And I think not only are we thinking we're losing someone to road cycling, but I think a few mountain bikers will be thinking, "Oh God, Sagan's fully concentrated on mountain biking." So they'll be worried. You know, we're losing someone from road cycling.
It's interesting, actually. The first time I came across Peter Sagan was in Chieti in 2012 on the Tirreno Adriatico, stage 4. And he was supposed to be in support of Vincenzo Nibali. I think I may have mentioned this in the past, but so you'll have to forgive me. But we showed some pictures a few minutes ago of him actually taking that win. And it was quite a cathartic moment. Of course, he's had a few of those in his great career. As we come to complete another lap, there'll be, 4 more to go after this. 16 kilometres are each one of them, and they're still enjoying the festival. It's fantastic. What a great reception. So we thank San Juan. But yeah, just back to Chieti as they cross the line. No intermediate sprint points up to grab this time by. They're loving this adulation.
Do you know what? They've watched Richesi do this and do a whole lap on his own, and they think this is the way to do it here in Argentina.
Oh, nice.
The longer they do it, the longer they stay away.
Back to Chieti in 2012. Peter Sagan was supposed to guide Vincenzo Nibali up a very, very steep ramp that took you up to the lovely city, one of the nicest cafes on the whole planet. It was on the finish line there. I think it was actually called the Victoria, named after Queen Victoria. Gorgeous. Never been at such an opulent, beautiful cafe, I must say, impeccably served as well, by waiters in starched linen. Gorgeous. Big brass geezer as well, and all that kind of thing. That's a boiler, by the way, not a person. The pack comes across the line at 46. I knew you were chipping with something there. I could see the eyebrows raising. Yeah, Peter Sagan, he was supposed to be looking after Vincenzo Nibali in Liquigas, and he basically said at the end of the day that his radio must have been failing or something. Absolute nonsense. He just wanted to make a statement, and he did with the win. This is a great shot. I think this is one of it's of course from the gantry camera that's on the finish line. Nice for you to see the crowds who are there. The best place to be in a crowd, by the way, is just beyond the feed zone, because riders of course take a new bottle and then they dispatch the empties. So either just before or just after, you're going to find yourself in with a bit of luck, I think, as they make room for the bottle they've just taken. Quite often the pros, those who've been around a long time, will have actually dispatched the bottles before we get to the feed zone to leave the cages open. Others, less experienced, suddenly decide, oh yes, I will have a bottle, and then they've got to take the bottle out. So if you're an old pro's bottle, it's before the feed zone. If you want somebody who's a little less dialed in, then it'll be just after. But nonetheless, there's a few B1s knocking around, and if you're collecting those, that's the place to do it. Yes, again, he's always been a bit of a maverick, which is fantastic, but very difficult to sort of marshal. He needed team principal status, and he got it pretty quickly, to be honest. Vincenzo Nibali was not overly delighted in 2012. And in fact, the very next year, he said, right, see you, I'm off to Astana. And Peter Sagan said, bye, see you again sometime. As he, of course, Stays with liquid gas. Been a great to watch him. The rises and falls that he has had in terms of favour, and strange to even think that he would have been out of favour. Well, if Oleg Tinkov was even threatening to try and renegotiate his contract to cut his wages, and then he goes and wins 3 World Championships. I don't know. Who knows? Peter Sagan also said he always had a bit of a target on his back, and Sean Kelly had a great deal of sympathy for him, saying that when you are such a strong rider, find yourself in a break that was going to work with you. They all lean on your wheel. You finish second a lot because basically everyone just takes the mick if you're on a tough rolling day. But hey, he had plenty of success. Max Rutesi, of course, who's done a lap of honour here, had plenty of success in the service of others as well as for himself. Overall, it's been an illustrious career, but with no contract going forward, he's decided that he is bowing out. Riding for the Argentine team today, did a full lap of honour at the top of the day. This manoeuvre, by the way, in aerobatics is called falling leaf. He's not over-egging that particular one. You take the plane up almost to a stall, then let it fall, and then you straighten up the plane and essentially do a bump start of the engine. Little bit dangerous over a crowd to engage with that. I'm sure he's over a park when he's doing it. He or she, of course, on board. Nice big spectacle as well going on. Proper party here.
But it's, we're talking about Sagan a little bit, Rutesi as well, and Rutesi possibly has led more wins than he's actually won himself in his career, 17 wins. The only problem I have got with Peter Sagan, I still have a little bit of a grudge, although I shared an expensive bottle of wine with him. It's Paddy Bay when he was with Sylvain Daly. I had Sylvain Daly at 750 to 1. And Sagan beat him. That's my only gripe. my biggest stake. I don't normally go for it outside those well, but I did that, and it nearly came out.
Jeez.
As 40 beats says, quite right, Marcel Kittel was the surprise retirement for me. Yeah, there's been a few, hasn't there? And the quick men, I think, are more prone to early retirement because it's such a very finely balanced thing. And you've got to be fully committed as well, and I think that's a young man's game. As soon as you start to get the fear, kind of knocks you back a little bit. I remember Andre Greipel.
No more waves. Look at that bike.
That's a part of his career was started to back out of sprints. He was a dad many times over, and
rim brakes.
You just start to realise your own mortality, quite frankly, I think. But Marcel's in a happy place. We've seen him around. He gets a lot of media work as well. Still hugely popular, particularly in the Far East. They used to be Marcel Kittel doubles. I'm serious. In Japan. But, anyways, yes, we appreciate everything that they do for our enjoyment.
Fortunate, Carlton, to
there's no doll for you, Brian.
No,
voodoo doll, but I've been quite fortunate to spend a lot of time with Marcel and just asking him these questions, and I have total respect for him.
Yep.
He wanted to have a family, which he has. Cycling was just a commodity that he used, and he enjoyed it when he did. But he thought to himself, where am I going to be in 4 years' time? So he's went to do a university course, got a family, and these are the things that are important. It's not all about racing his bike. He did it very successfully, but he just wants to be happy in life.
You get a lot of riders who get the same troubles as the rest of us, and I think sometimes you must start to wonder. Life on the road's not easy, Brian, and to have a long career means that you have to have a very understanding family.
Oh, totally. I speak about that when I work with teams. My kids have come after being a professional sportsman, but a lot of times nowadays you see the top sportsmen with their kids on podiums, and spending a lot of time away working here at Eurosport GCN with Bradley Wiggins, his sacrifice of months and months up Mount Tidy away from his family. It's these huge sacrifices that you have to make. Okay, you know, a lot the riders nowadays can stay at home because it's a lot easier to travel. In my day, I couldn't live in Britain because of the travel to the races, so I had to live abroad, and so I had to make that sacrifice. So I spent, you know, a lot of months away. So it's a little bit easier for some of these bike riders to stay at home with, you know, the amount of you know, planes and journeys and things like that. A lot easier, but I think it's a lot harder now for a lot of the pro bike riders now, because it's, you know, even in this race we're doing line to line. This is being broadcast worldwide. There's no place to hide. I used to race races in the 90s, and you very rarely saw them back in Britain. And I remember some of my training group that I used to go out with, a Renfrew bunch. They were texting me after a race. I think it was at Catalonia. I rode a race, and they were over training in Spain or Mallorca somewhere, and it came on television just by chance, and they saw me riding in the race. But yeah, nowadays there's a lot more pressure, nowhere to hide in bike racing because we're covering so much.
Indeed. I guess as well, there's less opportunity, just on another thread, for riders to hide from their DSs as well, because they've got a full view of everything they're up to. So it's not just about the public, of course. I think that's a drop video as opposed to rain, by the way, that's caused this little splattering of moisture. Yeah, you're given instructions by your DS, and you better carry them out, because you're going to have a full view of what you're up to, quite frankly. They often tune in and listen in to us as well, I have to say, on GCN Plus and the like, where they're keeping in touch with the action. And yeah, they've got it in the car. 30 seconds. Talking about the lack of hiding place for pros these days, because whatever you're up to, it's likely that your DS, the public, and everyone is fully aware of what you're getting up to as well. In fact, if there's ever been any incidents on a road, I can tell you that the first thing the commissaires do is go straight to the television truck and basically get all of the recording from all of the cameras, and they can issue their directives therein afterwards. I've seen that quite commonly. Occasionally, when it was tapes, they used to take the tapes, and we say, come on, we're trying to cut the highlights, you can't have them. They say, well, I've heard that this, that and the other. These days, of course, you can download a digital copier. They can fill their boots with whatever it is they're interested in. But yes, discipline, I think there has to be a lot more of it. I think as well, you know, we're talking about patrons of the Peloton, Brian, trying to direct proceedings as this gap starts to come down now with other teams just adding a little bit of firepower to the chase. I think there is, you know, if you're giving your directions at the beginning of the day, you'd better action them, because just in the pocket of everybody, they have a way of keeping in touch with what you're up to.
Of course, it was easier some years ago because your directors, 40s, were in the cars behind and just looking at the back of the peloton, and so all you had to do was stay away from the back of the peloton and not to be seen. It was only afterwards they got to see, you know, some of the highlights and various other things. But you know, we're seeing everything these days. You know, the cameras are picking up absolutely everything. Maybe not in this race, but in many races they've been, you know, capturing everything, and like we're saying, no place to hide. But it gives, you know, we're seeing sponsors here. It gives sponsors, you know, huge opportunities.
It does, yeah.
To get hours and hours of their sponsors on the TV screens. So it's all you know, where can cycling go now? Of course, we can't get any more. There's no room. It's when you look at the future of the World Tour calendar, and I'm so glad they're doing this, because I think you know, we have to, sometimes cycling, you have to take a step back and look at other sports. How do other sports do things? And we're so far away from other sports. You know, how we monetize fan bases within teams, we don't really do it. Unless you're selling some jerseys or shots and, you know, kit and things like that. The teams don't really kind of monetize their fan bases well enough. But, you know, looking at other aspects of the sport, where the top riders will maybe wait until some of the top riders give their schedules, and maybe then they'll give their schedules. I mean, the only race, and forgive me if I'm wrong, the only race that we see pretty much all the top riders in the world is Tour de France. Well, the old days of the, you know, the World Cups and things like that, we used to get a lot of the best riders doing these. Sean, you know, won the World Cup pretty much on a few occasions. So I was quite fortunate to get one of those jerseys to auction it off at the Braveheart Fund. He was a bit reluctant to give it, but I got it out his hand with a spanner. So, you know, that was the old days of cycling, and I think by the sounds of things, by what's been said at the UCI, that there will be no clashes of World Tour events, which I think is a good thing moving forward. So if you want to ride a World Tour event, there will be absolutely no clashes with any other World Tour events, which means that they are trying to look at getting the best riders at these races.
Oh, we need to spread the love, that's for sure. Yeah, one of the things as well is we were talking about the fact that there are no patrons in the peloton anymore, and that's because if a rider comes up to you and says, right, you're not riding, and your DS is in your radio, in your ear saying, ignore him, I've told you what to do. So I think that may well have something to do with it. We are going to hear from Fernando Gaviria in a few moments' time, who has, of course, won a stage here. What's he got for the end of today, Brian? How do you think he'll go? Is he your pick?
I'm still out in this one, because I think it's a tough one to call now that Welsford is. I think this finish suits Welsford, but I'm still toying between the idea of Gaviria, Sam Bennett, Jakobsen. I think I'm going to stick with my pick from yesterday, Jakobsen.
Well, let's wait and see. I fortunately I'm struggling to find Gaviria's interview here. Do you have it to hand, Brian?
Just check your WhatsApp messages. So it's the last chance for the sprinters. We saw you very well yesterday, despite you didn't win. What can we expect from you today? I have good legs. The team, we've said we're going to go for this one, try to enjoy and perform a good show. How is the circuit? It's very fast. We are good to do it 7 times, and let's hope there is no inconvenience.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to ask you a favour now as well. On top of that one, I'm going to have to take this as a comfort break. So if you wouldn't mind, speak to some lovely people on Twitter for a moment.
So now 50 kilometres to go now. The peloton are holding a 3-man breakaway. I don't think that was ever going to be a worry for many of these teams thinking of a sprint. You can see the Medellin team, they're more than capable. They showed that yesterday. Yesterday was a very difficult start, and they managed to control the peloton. So exactly 50 kilometres to go. The gap to the 3 leaders, 49 seconds. Peter Sagan, who we talked about, retiring from road cycling at the end of the year. He's been brought up to the front in the blue shorts, in the white tops. These are our 3 leaders. We've got Matthias Vacek of Trek Segafredo, Carlos Salguero on the left hand side, the Taveria team, and 191 Laureano Rosas of the Gremios team. These three have been entertaining the crowd and trying to G them up. Ahead of the peloton, we do have
There I am.
Brazilian champion.
Upper.
This race is pretty much ridden in the front every day, selfishly for the sprint leader, Fernando Gaviria, who we've just heard from. But yesterday's finish, if you haven't seen it, it's one of the best finishes I've seen in a long, long time. Blanket finish, where Sam Welsford took the top step. He crashed in stage 2 quite heavily, but he recovered, and he's just concentrating on these 2 stages. Can he double up? No, nobody's been able to win 2 stages in this race. Bennett won the first, Jakobsen the second. Simmons, one of the sprinters on the racing circuit, to win ahead of Richese. Gaviria eventually took his stage win. Lopez took the Alto Colorado to lead this race, and then Welsford's taking a magnificent sprint yesterday. But looking at this run-in, maybe not as fast as yesterday with the tailwinds, but again we're going to see a very entertaining sprint finish in the next 48 kilometres.
Thank you, Brian. Sorry about that. Don't get caught out very often. But the Max Richese celebrations, that meant we got our timings a bit out here. Here's your finish line, as will be. They're going to be roaring them home at the very end. They're milking this one, aren't they?
We're getting a nice shot from the helicopter here, but it's.
I think the others are as well, as you can see. Well, Rockstar States, you don't often get this level of support, Brian, but they really have come out in force. As you said, I guess the Football World Cup has instilled a sense of sporting togetherness in the entire nation. It's great.
I think that is the case. I saw after the London Olympics with the Tour of Britain afterwards, it was so crazy and great for our country. And I said it at the time, obviously youngsters, I don't care if you're not a football fan or you are a football fan, just, you know, looking at cycling now, you know, Richese got his kind of lap of honour, and, you know, the way that they've been out in force today, this is getting close to Tour de France type crowds.
Yeah.
And I have to say that throughout the stages that we've been covering here, with the pictures that we have got, the crowd has been quite sporadic in different places, maybe in some of the King of Mountains or sprint finishes, or some of the. But look at this, Carlton. This is Tour de France standard.
It is. It's fantastic. No wonder the UCI have taken the option of making sure that there's a velodrome to serve Argentina and South America generally down here. I know we've got Cali and a few other amazing velodromes as well. But yeah, we played with it, didn't we? During this race, it's been a pleasure to see, and that level of investment is being repaid by the affection of the crowds.
That's coming down.
It's giving everyone a buzz. They're not hanging around, Brian. This is going to be a quickish day if you discount the first lap, which is a lap of honour for Richese. They have not been hanging around at all, and this gap has not been allowed to go to anything significant because they realise the danger they're in.
I never thought the gap would go up too quickly. In a circuit race like this, you'll always keep it within about a minute, and they're too busy waving at the crowd anyway to extend it out there. But yeah, it's all in the entertainment value of you know, our sport, and, you know, Trek Segafredo putting a rider in a breakaway because, you know, they want to get the best out of today's stage.
Martha asking, the pros seem to have very, very tall seat posts. Well, they do, because they like
Oh
a
my
very
God.
focused
One more.
position upon the bike. Having a flat back, keeping most of your body out of the wind. Wind is the great enemy of cyclists, of
Oh,
course.
man.
But also, it's a very focused position. I think when anyone climbs upon a pro bike, Brian, and adopts this position, it's really quite startling, the difference between the way that these guys ride and even some very good amateurs.
Do you know why a lot of this is these days? About the kind of high seats.
Oh, Lord.
Of course, we can see from this sloping, it slopes towards the end,
There we go.
which is a case
Here you
of
go, me.
trying
First
to
person.
keep the bike as stiff as possible. So the smaller the frame, the stiffer the bike is. But then again, you've got that extension. Many of these bikes, or pretty much all of these bikes, are built for molds, and they're built in a mold for the mass markets. And you'll find that the mass markets, many of these bike frames are made. The geometry is possibly slightly shorter for the kind of normal person, and a lot of professional bike riders are very aggressive. Not only are they extended at the front, but they're very low, purely because they are highly tuned athletes. They've got great core. They can get into that position. It's I do quite a few kind of bike fits, and most people just want to be comfortable, but for pro bike riders, it's about getting as aggressive as possible and getting not just comfortable on the bike, but more aerodynamic on the bike. This is why we've got this kind of controversial, lever position and where you put your hands, and puppy paws is no more, because they want to try and kind of benefit from that kind of aero assist. But you look at the length of the stems, because a typical bike, I'm just touching under 6 foot. A typical bike, I ride a 56, and it'll come with maybe a 10, 11 stem on its centimetre stem. Well, I look for a 13 centimetre stem, and it's where you sit behind the bottom bracket as well, and all about the position of, where you can get maximum power. So I think it was documented quite a few years ago, maybe 10 now, with Tom Bonin. They made a special mould for him. The mould, it's probably for a bike frame, is maybe about $250,000, but they make thousands of frames from that. But they had to make a special mould for Tom Bonin purely because he wanted a longer top tube. So you find that because they get kind of maybe shorter, smaller frames, to get the height they require, it looks extended at the back.
It's startling just how compact the bikes are for some very, very tall athletes, but they adapt them so that they can manage to fit. But yeah, they look very diminutive. So, in answer to the question, thank you very much for it. Yeah, there is a pro look, and it's not even reflected, because as a club rider, when you're spending a good few thousands of dollars or pounds, whatever it is, on a bike, you have to build in a certain amount of comfort, because you just can't race like this all the time if you're doing it for fitness, not necessarily in competition. It would just hurt, Brian.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Carlton, it's not a natural position.
No.
Even a time trial position is not natural. In the position that these riders adopt, because often you get in bike fits, you've got, I've got sore back, or parts of my thighs hurt, or behind my shoulders and things like that. And there's a big difference between making a rider comfortable and making a rider more aerodynamic. And of course, some leisure cyclists, including myself, carrying a little bit more extra timber than these lads do. And of course, we don't do core exercises on a daily basis. To do this, to ride in this position for 100 miles a day, and it was just coming in possibly 15, 20 years ago, because most bike riders are way back before then were just riding their bike, doing a little bit of weight training. But now part and parcel of a pro bike rider's daily exercise is core, stability, all that sort of stuff. And I don't know, you've seen a video recently in social media talking about Peter Sagan, where he's got a small dumbbell, and he's doing his kind of core exercises. I think he's actually standing on a ball at the time. So every day these pro bike riders are doing core exercise. A bit like yourself, Carlton.
Yep, that's right. I have got a massive core, that's for sure. My core is so massive, I've got smaller versions of myself in orbit around me. But anyway, 34 seconds is the gap, moving swiftly on. Oscar Sevilla, well, he's been around the block as well as our Oscar. Proper veteran for Team Medellin. In fact, I think he's won this race in the past.
He has, yes.
Yeah, there we are. So hence he's being picked out for you. 41.3 kilometres from home. So our next passage over the start-finish line is going to give us another intermediate sprint, Brian. I was going to actually check how much the prize money is, and I've just realised those notes are not with me. But anyway, I remember a few years ago, Sean Kelly and I were absolutely shocked on the Vuelta de España. I think it was after the economic crisis of 2008. A couple of years later, an intermediate sprint for finishing third in a Grand Tour on an intermediate sprint. It was €10. It's not a lot more.
No, it's not. And considering you split a lot, that's all put into a pot and you split. But
Yeah,
a few
right.
€10 into the same pot, you know, it's better than nothing. But I'm just looking at the race, the race Bible here, and there's no monetary values at all.
Yeah. Get a real sense of the pace
40
down
kilometers
here.
to go.
Vacek, Rojas and Santiago.
It's
They
just
don't have
counted.
much they don't.
Way back in my under 16 days, I used to win some races, under 16 races, and get a pen set. One of the local organisers used to work in a pen factory and used to get pen sets. They came in handy at school.
If you're talking about prize money, Matt Stevens told me that he did a race in Lincolnshire, sponsored by a market gardener, so somebody who was growing vegetables in greenhouses. Anyway, the podium was a step ladder, so the winner was on top. Second place was halfway up the steps, and Matt was standing on the ground when he finished third. And his prize for finishing third in the race was a cabbage. So there you go.
Yeah, but as an amateur, in those days you couldn't really earn any prize money. They couldn't give out any cash.
Well, he had coleslaw for about a month. It was a big cabbage. 33 seconds is the gap. It just shows you it. You often talk about this being, we have our superstars, Brian, but it's essentially a blue-collar sport, isn't it? It has been for generations. I know we get the champagne Charlies these days from the city who have all the gear. But yeah, at its heart, this is a working man's sport.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think it will continue like that as well.
Some of you heading off for a commercial break. We've got 38 kilometres left. At the sort of pace we're dealing with at the moment, 54 kilometres an hour. This will be over quickly. So get your comfort breaks out of the way with. I have. There's a buzz about this day, Brian.
There certainly is, and you know, they're not hanging about, and I think Medellin just doing the best job here is just riding on the front. You know, these three riders in the front group, no threat to the general classification, but what they really do not want is anything happening to Miguel Angel Lopez. So it's just about concentrating, getting the job done. While round about them, others are enjoying themselves. That'll change, of course, when we get into the last lap, but many others are trying to kind of take it in, enjoy themselves, but they have to remain focused and ride at the front and look after their leader.
I was surprised yesterday that Fabio Jakobsen was the one that surprised me, actually. That he was just out of it a little bit towards the end. I know it's very modest because he was 4 across the line essentially, but nonetheless, I kind of expected him to completely dominate, and we didn't get that. the heats, we've had plenty of that here. It's it's far more moderate today. But I just wonder, when you're at the very highest level, Brian, I guess it's easy to get disappointed, even if you're coming home in fourth place, just off the day's podium. It's regarded as a failure by the absolute cream of the crop, isn't it?
It is, but yesterday was a clean sprint. The fastest man won. It's as simple as that. It wasn't really about, you know, wrong position. You know, they get caught out or any of that. We've had, I think it was in stage one where, you know, that kind of kink in the roads, close to 1 kilometre, and it took a few of the sprinters out of the area, and the Jakobsen being two of them. But yesterday's sprint was an old-fashioned drag race to the line. I just like the fact that if you watch it again, watch when DSM came up to the front and what Welsford decides to do. He decides to not go towards the front with his teammates. He just shuffles himself onto Jakobsen's wheel, and virtually Jakobsen let him out. But there was no controversy, there was no, you know, to get stuck in gaps or anything like that. It's a clean, old-fashioned sprint where the fastest man won in the day.
It was a joy, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a thrilling finale again today. "19 seconds only." They're no longer waving at the crowd, trying to jimmy them on, because they realise that the day is nearly done. They've had a bit of hero worship up front, this trio, but it's nearly time. And the sort of pace we're dealing with at the moment, we haven't really dipped below, what, 54 kilometres an hour. It's very, very quick. No wind to speak of around the wider body of the circuit, because I think it's with all this arboreal protection, there aren't any wide open spaces. There is one when we come up onto a bridge, and you'll see flags when they are displayed aflutter. But it's very quick today, and possibly a blessing, I think. 3 up front, 20 seconds, and it looks like we may well have an exchange. If they're caught, Brian, with 35 out, I think that's still manageable. The sort of pace that we've had here, it's likely to all stay together, I'd have thought.
Yeah, we say so far 45.6, and that's even with the lap of honour with the Chasey.
Wow.
So, you know, they're clipping along, and I think by the way that they're riding at the front of the peloton, like you say, that the pace will remain the same. Medellin will ride, they'll just keep Miguel Lopez safe in front, and the sprinters teams will keep the pace high, because it makes it a little bit easier, because if the pace drops, guess what happens? They start to attack, so nobody wants that.
It's amazing, actually. We're sort of bobbling along here at sort of 45, 50 kilometres per hour. We've been seeing a lot of that. And it kind of feels that almost like the approach pace is around about 18 kilometres to go, but it's relentless. It just keeps happening. They're maintaining that level. Lap after lap. I think this is just about the perfect size for a lap, Brian, 16 kilometres. It's enough to dial everything in, but equally, I guess, to know all your attack points. But what I mean is, it's not short enough to get tiresome, and it's long enough for the pace. You can kind of count it down. 7 laps is okay. I always think if you've got a very tight circuit and you're doing, is it okay, everyone, 60 laps, oh, for goodness sake. It never diminishes, but this is about right. It keeps everyone fresh, and that's clear here.
I think if you did 60 laps, it would be a track race. But you know,
I've seen some city crits, to be honest.
Yeah, this is a nice circuit, nice and wide.
Yep.
3 lanes wide, 2 lanes now, but good surface, nothing to worry about. It's one of these courses where you don't have to kind of really worry about any corners, like you said. I can remember was it the Giro d'Italia some years ago finished around Rome, and it was a little bit wet.
Yeah.
And they neutralised the race. They thought it was a little bit too dangerous, and it was too technical. And you don't really going to want that. I think this is a perfect length. 16 kilometres, 10 miles round, bowling along. It's easy to sit in a group. This is a dream circuit. Okay, you have to be wary of the fans at the side of the road, but like you suggest, Captain, the last thing you want is a very technical circuit. When we look at the Grand Tours, especially the Champs-Élysées, that's not an easy finish round there. You know, it kicks up to about, what, 4% and up towards the Arc de Triomphe, and it's, you know, you've got the kind of cobbles and things like that. It's not an easy circuit. This is as easy as you get.
It is, yeah, and the riders are enjoying it. Good rolling surface as well, impeccable actually. Haven't seen really that many degraded roads during this race. They really look pretty good. Yeah, Rome don't want the Giro. The Roma Maxima itself just became too much of a pain for the city authorities. I guess they're, you know, they've got an entire tourist industry to look after in that amazing city. But yeah, it's strange they've got it to Milanese race, and it's not overly welcomed by Rome. And when we went there, you know, to close a city like Rome has a cost to it, and they weren't best disposed to a cycling event, and it's a shame because the Roma Maxima, I loved that race. You know, coming off the hills, of which there are 7 around Rome, just like Sheffield, and then coming into town and coming by the surface, you know, those beautiful amphitheatres are just amazing. Such a backdrop, and it's just a shame we don't play with it. Yeah, I remember a lot of the complaints, and we mentioned Marcel Kittel. I think he was one of those that did complain about the road surfaces. Chris Froome, likewise, I think, seemed to remember was in the race that year. But anyway, yeah, it was too brutal, bouncy, wet, lots of drain covers and that kind of thing. And everything back. There we go. Time to start counting them in. There's another intermediate sprint dealt with, Brian. They weren't exactly wrestling each other for it. But bonus seconds and a little bit of financial reward. It'll be the bell next time by.
It will be. There's no nothing up for grabs in these intermediate sprints anyway. You touched on just rolling up, maybe like in cycling, but you know, parts of England are very similar.
Yeah.
I was working in the Tour of Britain, and you know, it's local to me in Kent. We had a Kent station, and the police car in front, supposed to be kind of marshalling and make sure the safe passage was, wasn't playing game.
Beautiful weather. The sun has just come from underneath the clouds here. But a little bit of cloud today, but generally speaking, the weather's been absolutely beautiful. Possibly a bit too hot for some riders, especially at this time of year, and so they have a lot of teams that came here for pre-acclimatization. That's the way to put it. So we kind of got used to the heat haze. Sorry, Brian.
Jolly.
Yes, I was using a more technical term.
No, it's to get people to come over here, either you pay them or you know you offer them the best way to take in a long trip from Europe. And I have to admit that, you know, when I was involved with team management, organising riders from Australia to the Middle East, and then this came up as well, when you consider them from Europe, it's a day's travel. You're talking about 25 hours to get here, so that's why they pay for hotels, because some races pay for hotels for maybe a couple of days before the race, but they pay for the hotel the week before the race, so the riders and teams can come out, stay the week, ride their bikes, they usually acclimatise a little bit, ride the race, stay in the same hotel, and it kind of works for everybody. Everybody's kind of happy with it, and especially at the start of the year. Okay, we've had a couple of spells, but in general, it's been quite a safe race.
"19 seconds, bouncing to 20, around that margin with 30 kilometres to go." I think the next time when we take the bell. Obviously that would be with 16 kilometres to go. We're used to the distance that we're dealing with today. It might be that we're in a bit of a cagey scenario at that point. It'll all be back together, I'm certain. They will reabsorb this trio up the roads before you know it. I think possibly around about 20 to go. And then it's time to start thinking about the finale. It's a reasonably narrow road, Brian. If they want to have as much space, or if they wanted as much space as they got yesterday, they've realised now that that's not going to happen. And there's no real corners, as you've seen, because we're basically on the ring road of San Juan here. So there's going to be quite a bit of battling for position, I'll be found, at the end of today, and that's going to suit the brave, I think it's fair to say. I think we'll just pick it up with 2 lanes. So I don't think, a little bit like yesterday, we came from kind of 3 lanes into kind of 2 lanes. But I think they've got enough to contend with. Like I was saying earlier on, this is a very kind of easy circuit. You know, there's every opportunity to move up at any particular time, so I don't think there's any kind of dangers here at all. But saying what you're saying, I'm not going to say they're fresh air legs, because it's not been overly difficult. You're saying that they're still averaging 45.5, but normally you get in a stage like this, and we get it in stage 1 where we had a bit of kind of chaos. Everybody thinks this is the last chance, I'm just going to throw everything at it, and I think that this could be a little bit more chaotic on the end, and like you're saying, I know what you're trying to say, that it will be more chaotic than previous sprints, Carlton, purely because everybody will be fighting for the road space. Instead of yesterday's sprint where we had 2 or 3 teams, everybody will be doing it because it is the last stage. Precisely. So Sudal Quickstep will be teeing up Jakobsen, Bornhansgaard, of course, Sam Bennett, Abra Story for Trek. Got a man in the break. They were hoping that would make other sprint teams do the work, but that cudgel has been picked up by Team Medellin, who are looking after Miguel Angel Lopez. I think he wants to show the leader's jersey as well to everybody. Zwift's not had the best of runs here. Looked lively-ish yesterday, but got beaten back into 7th place for Astana, but they'll have another go with Evgeny Givic trying to pick their way through. Fernando Gaviria, we have of course mentioned, with Rangel, the Brazilian champion, and Albert Torres doing a job for him. I don't see Albert Torres here. Not enough rolling stages for him to be allowed to have a dig, I'm afraid. Sam Welsford. Well, if it's out and out pace, he's your man. But they'll be wise to him, and I think they'll be wise to him following on as well after yesterday. So a repeat for Sam Welsford, a long shot, but perhaps a longer shot, courtesy of his victory, and they're wary of him now. But he did look incredibly powerful yesterday. Eli Viviani, not been at his absolute best, but then again, he's longer in the tooth. Experience, let's put it that way. Same with Giacomo Nizzolo for Israel Premier Tech. We've got nothing out of this race, and they will want something. Donardi for Il Cometa, I think will get lively. He has to, really. Max Richesi, he's already toughed it out emotionally. It'll be Thomas Conte for them. 2 left up front. We're just pondering who is going to be going for it. It will be Pinazzi, Matti Pinazzi, the 21-year-old from Italy. Not much older than him is David Bosco, but Boscaro, I beg your pardon, and Ryan Bertazzo. But Pinazzi is the choice for the Italy team, and he's actually had some pretty decent runs. He was 10th yesterday. I'm not damning with fake praise. I think he suddenly realises that he's actually keeping up with quite some big guys out there. Massano or Mauro Richesi for Chimbas. Real long shot. Franklin Archbold for Palomar Cultura Valores. But what we're basically saying is there's a lot of dedicated and enthusiastic sprinters here. Zonocello for Bardiani is another one, and Attilio Viviani. Now, he's the brother of Elio, and he actually finished 5th yesterday, did Attilio, after we were kind of thinking, well, are they going to go for Konachev or Gandin? Yeah, I think it is going to be. And the man I haven't mentioned, of course, is Peter Sagan. The man who's retiring. Yesterday, finished in 6th place. I think he'd like it to be a bit more technical. He used to be the most amazing train hopper. They just about come all back together here. He used to be the amazing train hopper. He'd barge onto anybody's wheels at will, and quite often as well barge into other people, as some will remember with pain and scars. But anyway, let's wait and see. I don't think there's anyone particularly that I've missed. As of Uruguay. Go on, who have I missed?
There's 2 big ones in this one you've missed.
Go on.
2 massive ones. Franco Buchanan and Franklin Archibald. They are 2 very big outsiders.
Is that because they've got Scottish names, man?
Yeah, of course. Go on, boys.
Frankie Buchanan. Let's see if we're calling his name at the end. Yeah, one of the big disappointments in this race has been Gleb Zwitzer. We gave him a big build-up, Brian, and he hasn't really performed.
Let's see what he does today, because if any sprint would suit him, I think today is the best one for him. So this is his best opportunity. So when we're thinking of Welsford yesterday, he wasn't really at the on the tip of our tongue. Syriza might be able to deliver. The only thing is he just doesn't have the same kind of lead out that the team DSM had for Welsford yesterday. That's the only problem he's got, and he's still learning, of course. But he's a big lad, a powerhouse, but this is his best opportunity today.
Jem Tivani shocked us for Korotech on stage 2 when Jakobsen won. Jakobsen, Gaviri, Aberastori, who we love keeping an eye on, Bennett and Tivani, so he's in good company there. Just trying to see where he how he has performed since then. He was 7th behind Sagan, but in front of the likes of Lampert, also done his job. Both of those have done their jobs on the 3rd stage, so he might have a little sniff. Let's see. 23.4 kilometres, 5 seconds. We said they'd be caught about the 20 mark, and that seems to be happening. So, strap yourself in. Have you made your choice for today, Brian?
Yes, I have.
Who was?
I said I'm going to stick with Fabio Jakobsen.
I'm going to go for Gaviria today, from where we start. Quiet as a mouse. Yeah, the only sprinter to take himself a double. Jakobsen, of course, well, if he wins. There's only one chance for him, and it's prime sprinters here. It's happening, of course. The one day I've drifted away from the faith. Yeah, Sam looked very, very strong yesterday, but he was beaten by Welsford. I think if he'd got his timing, perhaps just... you just never know. It's so critical, isn't it? Right at the end, it was half or 3/4 of a wheel was the gap at the end. And Sam's got the mighty lead out as well. Danny Van Poppel is just a genius. Ryan Mullen, of course, a bit of bumps and bruises for him. And Jonas Koch as well. The more I say it, the more I think Sam Bennett's going to win. But I'll stick with my choice of Fernando Gaviria here. I'd like Gaviria to win as well, because I kind of feel that he's still on probation with his team. I know he's won one. I think it'd be nice for him to do so again. Let's see. Well, they didn't quite muster them back in. I think, is anyone up for a final jam at the moment such as this? 21.6 kilometres to go then. They'll cross the line with 16 remaining. They'll hear the bell. That always strikes a bit of extra verve into everyone when you hear the bell, Brian.
It does, with a few riders, interlopers trying to go across the gap there. It looked as if one of them was the King of the Mountains, just having another crack. He was very active earlier on today, but they've been swept up, and it's still the sprinters teams at the front.
Well, we haven't quite got to handshakes in our last man standing on our breakaway just yet. Might happen. Well, it's the end of the game. They have been reasonably pacey throughout the day, save for our first lap, which was a celebration of the retirement of Matriciese. But we haven't really dropped below that 43, 45 kilometres per hour marker for quite some time. It might get a little bit cagey as they all get themselves into colour order. You can see Astana on the left-hand side of the road, Yellow Cometa with a slightly paler blue kit nearest to us, also getting into order for Giovanni Lunardi. Astana, of course, want to set themselves up with Gleb Zritza and Yevgeny Gidich, who's going to be leading him out. Still, they hold station at the point, about 4 kilometres away from the bell, which will announce the final lap. More than familiar it is and will be to us as well. No nerves, Brian. Not yet, anyway.
No, I think it's a case of, you know, the circuit is not overly technical. They don't have to be at a certain point at the front. You know, it's just like riding round a bowl 2 lanes wide. So, you know, they're quite happy sitting and being patient. I think that's going to be the key for today, just becoming really, really patient and coming up at the last moment.
No turns at all. It's just an amazingly long loop. This is the windiest part of the circuit they're coming up to, so we just come up over the top, and it looks like whatever wind we indeed had has just completely dissipated. Well, there's always something about being last man standing. We'll be hearing from Fabio Jacobs in a short while. Spoke to him at the beginning of the day. Not allowed to interview him on the bike, although not been unheard of. He did ban it, actually. Motorcycle reporters interview. You can report, but you can't actually speak to the riders. But rules have been stretched to the limit in the past. And so we wait. Gosh, it really has gone all cagey. They're all getting themselves into colour order. We're just going to welcome back our wider Eurosport family who are joining us for the finale.
Yes, brutal.
They've loosened the leash here on these two. Two of the road, and they've extended their gap ever so modestly, as you can witness. I'm actually just wondering, we talk about the cat and mouse that is often played by those who are in the breakaway, and all of a sudden they've got something left in the tank. I'd like to see Matej Vacek having a go. He's only 20, by the way, the youngster, but took a stage in the UAE Tour, you might remember, last year. I think that was his biggest win. It was the Expo 2020 Dubai day, 180 kilometres of well, basically billiard table flat, and he was part of a late push that included La Pera, Strakov, Tonelli. I suppose cycling stats were providing the data. I'm just looking back at it now. So yes, he was part of a modest break that basically kept everyone in abeyance. Jasper Philipsen, I remember, in the green jersey, came home and they were banging the bars as if to say, we could have had that. Do you remember it, Brian? It's one of those times where the sprinters got their timing wrong and Vacek won.
Yeah, the breakaway got away. There were 2 Gazprom riders within there, and you know, Vacek was one of them, Strakov was the other ones. You know, just too strong for them in the end. He just held off the, you know, the fast finishing peloton by about, what, 15-20 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, there was actually 3 in the road as well, wasn't there? Pavel Konchev was there as well, and he did a massive turn for them, I remember. And then released them, and they even got a little bit cagey, I seem to remember, at the end. But the sprinters were livid that they'd blown it. Finished 15 seconds behind the winner.
Yeah, you sometimes have those opportunities, and just watch that young girl there. But yeah, you get these opportunities and you have to take them, and you have to build on it, of course. And you know, he's the strongest here. You know, the rider sitting in his wheel just cannot do a turn at all. That's the rider Salguero, Carlos Salguero from Portugal. So Vacek has been doing all the riding here, but they're just kind of dangling out. They're going to take the bell, which is something, and enjoy that moment. But I think coming into this last lap, 16 kilometres, I think a lot of the teams will want to kind of take it up, and you know, the speed will ratchet up a notch.
Even more. 700 metres away from the line. The San Juan Alliance have their own flag here, and now it is time to bin all of those if they're not within your own team. Just coming to the boarded sections, which will be beaten royally, and they are. Crowd have maintained their enthusiasm, Brian. They know that it's never too long before they come around again.
Yeah, they have. It's been very, very impressive to see this crowd out here right from the start to the finish of this stage.
There is the bell.
It's a meaty bell.
I like a big old clunker like that. Cast bronze. Time then. Always feel sorry for the bell ringer if the field is very, very widely spread out, but his job is now done. We're going to hear from Fabio Jakobsen about what today holds. Brian's backed him, so he's probably very pleased about that.
Fabio, last chance here in La Vuelta San Juan. How is going to be today's stage?
Similar to yesterday, I think. Fast. 7 laps on the ring, which is a speedway for motor cars, and today will be a speedway for bicycles.
We saw this morning some teams, not many, that went out training. Was this your case as well?
No, I stayed in the bed. Put all the energy in the 2 hours now outside.
How are going to be the weather conditions here? Do we can expect some wind as we saw the previous day?
Normally a little bit, but I don't think enough because we are in the city. Ramati just said it might rain a bit, but I don't think so. So I think it will be again a warm day and, like I said, a high speed.
Happy with your condition at this point, Fabio?
Yes, for sure. We are still building. It's January, almost February, so I feel that I'm getting ready to race. And yeah, after this we'll go to the Algarve, and there we'll want to put something extra, and then we should be ready for the spring.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
There you are. Open book opinion there. So it's all part of the building process, but sprinters and predators, Brian, and if they get a sniff, they will have a go, and he's certainly one of those. 2 have peeled off out of the pack here, just sharing the burden up front. It's
Just not two. Yeah, just 2 riders that have peeled off from the front of the peloton here, Carlton.
Yep. 14.2 kilometres to go. Well, why not roll the dice? If everyone is just taking their time about it, then they'll be issued a hurry-up notice here.
Yeah, they definitely have. And we saw it kind of shaking the hands with the 2 riders that were in the original breakaway. We kind of missed that as the counter-attack started. But yeah, this is going to be a really super fast final lap here with these 2 riders, you know, dialing in at the front.
They really have gone for it. 13.6 kilometres to go, and I'm just wondering. Well, the response has not been fully dialed in just yet. Everyone's been leaning on Team Medellin, who are looking after Miguel Angel Lopez, and now all of a sudden they've got a conundrum. Do we chase this down? And Sudal Quickstep, who are possibly going to be most likely to do so. And guess who? They're certainly not. We're having a poll. is here. Fantastic. Well, if anyone can, he can. He's got Quinn Simmons with him, Brian. Two superstars of this race, and they have gone. Now, if you're going to back anyone, you'd probably back these two. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, that's what I just said. It's not just it's two kind of normal riders that have just gone off the front here. It's two exceptional riders.
Fabulous. Well, let's see. Everpol and Simmons having a dig. Well, Trek Segafredo not had to do anything all day because Manny Bakchek's been on the road. But more than that, Medellin have been prepared to take on the duty. So Remco Evenepoel has sprung a surprise here. 12.4 to go. I've got a feeling they're going to get there because if, as we have heard, that we heard from Jakobsen, of course. This is all part of his plan just to sort of ease himself into the season, essentially. And this is all part of their battle plan, because Evenepoel's not going to be working for Jakobsen later on. If any other teams do wind them in, then Soudal Quickstep have got the joy of having two riders up the road, one of whom is from their team, that can deliver today, so the pressure's off them. Quinn Simmons is going to be loving the way this is panning out. And here come Team Italy. Mattia Pinazzi really thought that he got a chance today. And the Azzurri are coming up. 11.6 to go. I wonder if there is the will of the sprint teams to chase this down, Brian, because they know that their batteries may be flat if they do that job.
Well, the same, you know, Medellin can't, you know, let this go as well. So, you know, there's huge opportunity here. I think, you know, a little bit of panic maybe in the peloton as well when you consider what's happening in the race. But, you know, I said at the time, it's not just two, you know, normal riders that have gone up the road. Two very, very strong riders, and I think it will be kind of all hands to the pump.
Here we go.
And it was Quinn Simmons that went. I really do not think this was set at the team meeting with Evenepoel. He was just following at this moment, but as soon as he looked behind and saw that gap, then he wants to do most of the riding here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's starting to share the duties now. Quick check over the shoulder. 10.7 kilometres from home. There's a feeling that this has got some great possibilities, Brian, this pairing.
Well, the thing is, Medellin can't let this one go out. You've got to remember that Remco Evenepoel is, you know, just over a minute up, or a minute off the general classification here. So Bora have been put under pressure to deliver. I would think that you know, the team of Medellin will not want this as well. This kind of pressure inside the last 10 kilometres. Movistar will want to ride as well. So you could say that's old saying, cat and pigeons.
Music mouse, but anyway, I'll go with the pigeons. Cats amongst the pigeons, yes. Well, they've certainly kicked over a hornet's nest here because absolutely everybody's getting involved now. Total Energies, but you've got to believe in this pair. Quinn Simmons can really inject some pace. We've seen him do it in the past. We've seen him do it in this race. He's already got a stage to his name. Evenepoel, of course, the world champion, thought that he had a chance on the climb up to Alto Colorado. I think they've got more than a chance here. I think I'm going to start to believe in them because it's a very uncommitted chase. We've seen a few taking an option on it, but can't make it stick just for the time being. Brandon Rivera having a go. Pippo Garner, of course, very well placed within this race as well. But they're getting themselves into Colorado. 9 kilometres still to go. No defined gap for us as far as telemetry is concerned. But this is fantastic. What a spectacle to finish off, Brian.
Yes, absolutely amazing. I just remind everybody that Evenepoel needs 1 minute and 19 seconds, which is 1:09 if you factor in the bonus. So, you know, he's very capable of doing that. And he's got someone else that is thinking about that as well. 1 minute and 46 seconds. I did say at the start of the programme that there was 2 jerseys up for grabs that hadn't really kind of been won. And one of them was the best under 23 rider. And Quinn Simmons was 5 seconds behind Riccatello. So every reason to ride those 2 riders in front, Evenepoel and Quinn Simmons.
Yeah, but they need a gap. just remind us what the gap is for Evenepoel. What does he need to find out there? There's bonus seconds at the line, don't forget.
119 and 146.
There we are. Well, that's a big ask, I think. I think if they just stay away, and indeed Evenepoel takes the stage, if he does, Quinn Simmons will get the yellow young riders jersey as well, with any kind of gap. There's a couple of there's bonus seconds to be had at the line as well, so there is 61 kilometres per hour. If anyone could sustain this, it's Remco Evenepoel. We've seen him, Brian, as part of the lead out for Fabio Jakobsen, coming very, very late. We expected him to peel off with a couple of kilometres to go, but not a bit of it. He was taking the team right into town. He's in great form. Absolutely remarkable. Look at pace. He has no fear, Brian, at moments like this.
No, he doesn't. He may have feared, sprinting in the group, because his first victory in any sprint was in the Tour of Norway last year. Until then, he had never won a sprint final. So this is clearly an opportunity and an all-out effort to try and win the race. He needs just over 1 minute, 1 minute 19. He factor in the bonuses at the end. It will be about 1:09. So this is the world champion trying to win the race, because he's got to remember he's got Fabio Jakobsen behind. So with Quinn Simmons here, he's already shown that he can sprint well towards the end of a race. So this is clear. The world champion is trying to get the time back to try and win the race. Quinn Simmons, he could possibly win the stage and also take that under 23. So both of them have got every reason to race.
Did you see the little bit of a jinx there, jink out? Yeah, there's some conversations going on. And the Ineos Grenadiers had a bit of a chit chat. Not only amongst themselves but with other teams as well, and they have disintegrated as a fighting unit here. Well, the teams actually intermingled with them. They want to share the duty, and I think there's a bit of negotiation going on here. Total Energies have actually come and put their hands to the pumps as well, as you can see. But there is no real focus to the drive. It's far more dialed in with this duo up front. Here are the flags just describing the wind to you. It's a crosswind they're dealing with, but a lot of protection once they come over this sort of interchange rise. It will fall in a moment, and I think so is some ambitions here. They're kind of stamping on the pedals, they're looking at each other. Steph Kraft trying to dig in here. This would be an amazing steal by both of these two to get something out of this race at the very death, Brian. 57 kilometres an hour.
It would be, but I'm really interested in knowing this gap now, because it's going to be a 28 seconds now. It's not going to be enough he'll move. Both of them will move up in the general classification, but you have to consider this now, Carlton. Evenepoel and Quinn Simmons were riding behind. It doesn't look as if they're going to get enough time to deliver the stage. However, having this gap, 27 seconds, maybe 30 seconds inside the last 5 minutes, this is a stage winner for grabs. We know that Evenepoel is not overly confident in sprinting, but Quinn Simmons wants that time to take that best young riders jersey. Exactly. And of course, Quinn Simmons has already won a stage, so Evenepoel has to watch this situation, and I think he'll be getting orders back from the Davide Bramati, because I don't think he's going to get enough time for the overall, but potentially Evenepoel could be winning the stage.
That's what he's after, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it's almost scripted between the pair of them. They're not going to be able to exchange too many words, but eyebrow semaphore between the pair of them. It's clear. Quinn Simmons is going to get the young riders jersey. I think he'll try and win it, but I think Evenepoel will have a drop on him. If indeed we get there, there's an imbalance in the pace between those out front and the chase. It's reasonably significant, but I think they'll hold on. If they are going to get caught, it'll be in the last sort of 500 metres. They're strong, this pairing. We know that about the pair of them. Both have what it takes to go very, very long. Evenepoel, I don't know if there's any kidology going on here. There is a brief exchange between the pair of them in terms of work rate. I'm not quite sure whether they